Gartner did a study a number of years ago, and they asked contact center agents, and 84% of them hated their tools. It's because of this sort of toggling across of all these windows. And again, with a modern knowledge management solution fed by generative AI, that's their primary place to go to operate and resolve customer issues.
Welcome to the global experience. Get ready as we take you into the dynamic world of customer service and collections.
You will gain access to the secrets of success in the world of customer and employee experience through conversations with keynote speakers, industry mavericks, and CX and debt collections experts and influencers.
Let's get into it.
Sawubona, welcome, and hello. On today's technology-focused episode, we have someone who left a 15-year career in retail banking to chase his passion for democratizing financial advice. Now, he's shaking things up at eGain by leveraging AI, machine learning, and knowledge management to help firms truly empower their customers. He's here today to talk about technology and transformation. Welcome to the show, Evan. How are you doing?
Great. Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Cool. Well, Evan, if you don't mind, a great way to start off this episode is if you could talk us through your journey of how you found where you are at the moment at eGain.
Yeah, sure. Happy to. So as Bryce mentioned, I spent 16 years at a U.S. mega bank. It was a great career. And the last 10 years of that journey, I was on the leadership team of our call center. And at a mega bank, everything is mega sized. So that particular call center had 10,000 agents. And part of what my job entailed was special projects. And toward the end of my tenure, I got a special project to improve handle time and first contact resolution. I started with a calculation. How much would 1 second of handle time savings be worth? Turned out to be $1 million. So I was very motivated, as was my management. $1 million a second. Unfortunately, I only had a couple of weak levers, really 3 weak levers to move the needle. I had training, I had supervisor coaching, and I had pizza parties because as we all know, call centers are run on pizza parties. So dreamed up all these great programs, put out training, did coaching, and didn't move the needle. Then I started scanning the horizon and I saw some technology solutions, one of which knowledge management, of which eGain is a solution, that's what we do. And I'm like, this is a game changer. This is the way to improve contact center performance. I also was doing some other stuff, which I think we'll get into later on around advice and guidance in banking. And again, I saw technology as the solution, less so training and frameworks and all that. So as you said in your intro, I left the bank, actually technically retired, and joined eGain. And it's been a great journey. It's been a nice pivot, and I felt reborn when I went from where I had been for 16 years into a totally new industry.
AI is only as good as the knowledge base it is trained off of. It's at least what I've heard, Evan. Is this correct, in your opinion?
Yes, 100%. So part of my role here at eGain is I lead a small team that talks to the prospects that our marketing team generates. So my team and I talk to literally hundreds of companies. And the situation that we hear across these companies is incredibly consistent. They have multiple silos of knowledge. They have gaps in those silos. They have outdated information, inconsistent information. And then what they're doing is, again, super common, is they're bolting on AI on top of this situation of multiple silos of knowledge, multiple sources of truth. And of course, it's the proverbial garbage in, garbage out. The agents, the customers are getting untrustworthy answers. And so they're coming to us because this is a failed experiment. And actually, Gartner, who I respect a lot, I think they're pretty good technology sort of forecasters and analysts, came out with a quote that sort of backs up what we're seeing. What they said was that by 2025, 100% of generative AI, virtual customer assistant, and virtual agent assistant projects that lack integration to modern knowledge management systems will fail to meet the customer experience and operational cost reduction goals. In other words, it's exactly what you said. You don't have your knowledge house in order, you're not going to get the generative AI benefits. If you think about the generative AI searches this knowledge base with inconsistent answers, it's going to come up with the classic hallucinations and untrustworthy answers. So you are spot on, Bryce.
Cool. And Evan, off the back of your extensive experience in the financial industry, how do you see AI and machine learning transforming customer experiences in the financial industry?
Yeah, I know the financial services industry well, but I'm also now in my current role see a lot of other industries. So I think what I'm about to say is probably true for the financial services industry, but I think it applies to all industries. So I think the number one way AI, machine learning are going to transform industries is that it's going to reduce the cost of customer service. Again, I like to quote other sources to sort of back up what I'm saying. The McKinsey Institute came out with a study when generative AI was hot about 6-7 months ago. And what they said was they looked at the areas of companies where generative AI will have the most impact. And what they said was in operations and customer support, that's where the biggest impact will be. They're seeing anywhere from 35 to 40% cost reduction. What drives that cost reduction from AI and generative AI? First of all, the main thing is it's more digital service. Generative AI increases the capability of portals and bots to handle more complex transactions, more natural language processing, more conversational interactions the way people want to do it. And even now, in the early journey of generative AI, eGain incorporates some generative AI into our capabilities. We're seeing upwards of 40% call deflection. Some clients higher than that, 50, 60%. And that, if you're trying to reduce your cost of service, is a big way to do it, right? Do it to the automated digital channel versus your expensive human channel. And then what happens, by the way, is as more calls get deflected to the digital channel, what you're left with is the agents have the difficult calls. So this is something that, if you really want to get to extreme cost takeout, you've got to deal with. I used to say at Wells Fargo, which was the mega bank that I worked for, that the contact center agent job is the toughest job in any company. Let's think about it for a second. Everything you do is measured, right? You're, you go to take a bathroom break. It's measured by your sort of time on, time off the phone, your handle time, first contact resolution. You're taking a steady stream of calls. Oftentimes those calls, the customer is angry. Because there's that sort of non-face-to-face interaction. Oftentimes it's over the phone. People feel that they can get sort of hot, heated, abusive. And so it's a tough job. And if you're taking out the easiest jobs, that makes that agent job much more difficult. Well, guess what? Generative AI can also help with the agent, even as those calls get more difficult. It will allow, and we've seen this with our capability, it allows for searching across your single source of truth, your knowledge, and giving that agent step-by-step guidance how to solve these very difficult issues and issues that are often corner cases, which in the old world, like when I was at Wells Fargo, we had something called the virtual library. That was our knowledge base, really hard, long articles, not long policies and procedures. Agents had to read it while having a possibly angry customer on the other end, right? Now they get fed with these better technologies, generative AI, etc., fed step by step exactly what to do. And then what it allows the agent to do is focus on de-escalating the situation if it's a difficult customer situation, building rapport and relationship with the customer. So all in all, what you're going to see is dramatic cost reduction, all the while improvement of the customer experience.
Yeah. And agent experience.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. The other piece that I say when I think about back to my days working at Wells Fargo, and also in a lot of our clients is, agents they carry a supercomputer in their pocket, right? They have a smartphone. And so they're used to these really great technologies and capabilities in every facet of their life. And then they get to their contact center job. And most of them have anywhere from 7 to 10 windows open on their desktop as they try to toggle among the various systems, trying to resolve the customer issue. Well, of course, they don't like that. Of course, they complain about their tools. In fact, again, I'm going to quote another statistic. I like these stats. Gartner did a study a number of years ago. and they asked contact center agents, and 84% of them hated their tools. It's because of this sort of toggling across of all these windows. And again, with a modern knowledge management solution fed by generative AI, that's their primary place to go to operate and resolve customer issues. So the future is brighter, and there's going to be dramatic cost reduction and customer experience improvement opportunities.
Let me throw you a curveball question.
Sure.
What is your opinion on deflecting to self-serve? I know eGain provide a self-serve portal. I believe, you can correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah.
But what is your, like, I'm a customer. I get through to an IVR. It's telling me you can access this on our self-service digital channel. Press 1 to, or here's the URL to get there. Sometimes it causes frustration on the customers end. They just want to speak to a person. What is your opinion of that matter?
So there are a lot of people that actually prefer that. It's a little bit of a controversial topic in the industry. Anecdotally, I can tell you that the younger generations, the Gen Zers, I have 3 at home, so I have a firsthand focus group every day. They don't want to talk to an agent. They're digitally savvy, right? They would prefer to do things digitally. And it's a very high percentage of calls into contact centers, 80+%, are done on smartphones. So if you can avoid going to the human, you can go from an IVR to a digital experience on your smartphone. A lot of people prefer that. The capabilities as well of the bots and the digital portals, et cetera, are dramatically better, right? Used to be you had only menu-driven options, only could handle one question at a time, pretty crappy digital experiences. Well, these aren't your father's bots anymore. With generative AI capabilities and all the other improvements that have happened, the capabilities are quite strong now. And then in our technology, if for some reason the digital channel can't answer that customer's question, it'll transfer to a human, and the human has the full conversation and context of what happened with the bot. So they pick up where the bot left off, and it's a seamless transition. And so what we're seeing is that it's actually a good experience. A lot of customers prefer it, high resolution, and it's a great way, again, to sort of take cost out of your customer service operation.
Let's move the conversation back to the finance space, the financial institution space that you have a lot of experience in. I've also worked for the biggest bank in Africa, based here in South Africa, and I've seen the systems that have been used and the migration onto other systems, and it takes years to get it right. Sometimes the especially if it's legacy technology is old and clunky, but it's good for its purpose, but it's not the best, but it's such a mission to transfer it. Like, what are some fears that financial institutions have around migrating knowledge bases? Because there's so much information in a bank's hub, as an example. Sometimes it's difficult to find. I know I struggled to find information a lot of the time. Like, what are the challenges that they face, and should they be scared of that migration to knowledge?
Yeah. So first of all, the headline is they should absolutely not be afraid. I think a lot of it is it's the keys to the kingdom. It's the policies and procedures, and so there's always a worry. Well, what if it gets mucked up? What if even after migration there's inconsistencies? So let's go there a little bit about all the things that are in place to do the migration. So first of all, a lot of it's automated. But we've also, generative AI is really changing the knowledge management business. We use generative AI as well to really be strategic about how we create new knowledge bases. So we have an Irish utility client. They had all the sort of standard issues, gaps in their knowledge, outdated knowledge. And the way we tackled the problem there was we actually fed in transcripts from our system of thousands of their customer calls. And we use those transcripts through our tools and our generative AI to analyze what were the top issue types that customers were calling in. And we identified the top issue types that represented 90% of their calls. And then those are the knowledge objects that we migrated, 80-20 approach, right? Just focus on the policies and procedures that account for the majority of your calls. And then where there were gaps, again, we have the very cool tools where we can use generative AI to quickly create a first version of a policy and procedure. And then we route it to the right people, the subject matter experts, the compliance, the legal, to sign off on it. And so before this whole project was happened, they figured it would have taken 40 days to fill all the gaps in their knowledge base. And they did it in 5 with these generative AI tools and this very strategic approach. They did it 5 times faster. So should companies be worried? They have a right to be cautious, but with the capability to be strategic about what knowledge you migrate, how you fill the gaps using generative AI to solve that blank white page of paper problem that knowledge managers have when they're trying to create new policies and procedures. It's a whole new brave world that can really fill those gaps and give companies the digital capabilities they need and their agents the guidance they need to handle every call.
And Evan, just to highlight those challenges, what would you say are the challenges that companies are finding, and not just in the financial space, but generally, what are the challenges you would say they are finding when implementing AI driven customer service solutions? And
Yeah,
with that, off the back of that question, how does knowledge help them overcome that?
sure. So let's just step back. Generative AI is exciting, but there's a heck of a lot of risks are there. So let's kind of dig in for a second to the risks. And then after I set the table with what the risks are, I'll tell you how at least the way eGain has solved the risks. So we've already talked about the risk of inconsistent and outdated knowledge, right? That'll give you sort of the classic garbage in, garbage out, right? Untrustworthy answers. There's also brand risk and compliance risk. There's a famous story that in call center circles, I think it was Air Canada used a generative AI bot. Someone went on, they had a bereavement situation where they were flying back for a funeral, and the bot incorrectly quoted the policy of how the fare and the reimbursement they could get. It was wrong. The airline did not stand behind it. And because there was generative AI behind the answer, right, it went viral, right? Everyone heard about this, and the Air Canada brand, maybe at least in North America, everyone heard about it, the brand took a huge hit. There's compliance risk too. At my bank, there were certain scripts that had to be read verbatim, right? Just because of regulations. Well, if you've got generative AI sort of synthesizing and summarizing, coming out and creating new text, that may break that rule. So that's another example of a risk. There's IP risk as well. People are super nervous about their policies and procedures and corporate know-how being used to train these large language models, right? That puts your IP at risk. And there's another risk, which people don't talk about a lot, but I'm really quite fascinated by, which is no one really understands how these large language models work. It's a black box. Well, how can you build an incredibly critical feature of your business on something that you don't understand, and that's a black box? Pretty risky. And then the final one, that I'll talk about, is, the rules and regulations in this space are non-existent. It's the Wild West. And the one piece that I'm watching is New York Times here in the States is suing ChatGPT. And what they're saying is, you've, without our permission, used our copyrighted content to train your model. Well, we didn't give you permission to that, and we didn't get any royalties to that. Well, if the New York Times wins that case, the whole business model of ChatGPT may go up in flames. And if you've built your business on this model, this large language model, and it goes away, a lot of risk there. So how has eGain solved some of these pieces, some of these risks? Well, one I talked about already, which is if you just get a simple single source of truth in place, it solves a lot of the issues. If the ChatGPT goes away and you still have a single source of truth, you have process guidance, which is not reliant on generative AI, you're 80% of the way there. So we've also, though, as we've plugged in large language models into our technology, created some specific capabilities to address some of those risks I mentioned. So one is, when we use a large language model to come up with an instant answer that might take bits of content from various policies and procedures, we get back from the large language model a confidence level. The large language model says, okay, I've synthesized across these 3 or 4 bits of knowledge, and I can tell you with high confidence that I got it right, or low confidence, I don't know that I got it right. We give our clients the capability to set a dial there and say, you know what, only show my agents and customers the answers from the large language models that have high confidence, right? So that reduces your risk. You get to set that dial. As you get more and more comfortable with it, you can adjust the dial. Another one is, if there's a particular knowledge article that needs to be read verbatim, you check a box and you say this needs to be read verbatim, and the large language model will never synthesize it. It'll only present that script verbatim, so that minimizes that risk. And then we've also been working on best practice prompts. You know, they say young folks like you, young people, a hot career is going to be prompt engineer. There's a whole science to how do you write a large language model prompt. Well, as we're getting in this, we're creating a library of best practice prompts that really deliver the best results. And so that reduces the risk of hallucinations, et cetera, et cetera. So we're conscious of the risks. We've built around them. We've given our clients the tools to incorporate large language models and generative AI while mitigating the risks. We have a lot of analytics capabilities. Analytics sometimes are like the stepchild, but it's so important, right? We also have these great analytics around generative AI. For instance, you know, how effective was the prompt? Did someone have to go back and regenerate it because it didn't quite work? Or was that particular prompt create a perfect answer that then answered the customer's issue, or could be put into a bot, a chat to answer the question? So we have these very specific large language model, generative AI analytics that allow the companies to get on that loop of continuous improvement. So I didn't want to leave that out because the analytics angle of it is so critical.
Listen, we love a lot of data, and with data comes analytics, and with analytics becomes data to inform any decision that you make within your business. So I think a good pie chart, a good dashboard for me is is right up there with the best. But it's so interesting that you guys speak about prompt engineering. I think it's probably a popular opinion these days is that your AI is only going to be as good as your knowledge base, but it's also only going to be as good as the prompts that you give it. Like even if you, like for the everyday people who are using ChatGPT or Gemini or Meta AI or whatever, or Claude or whatever LLM they're using, the prompts around that really define what information you get from that. And I can only assume, and I've seen your guys, the way your knowledge portal works, it's kind of like a search engine. It's very similar in terms of making those right prompts enables a good outcome in terms of what knowledge you're getting, what answer you're getting. But okay, let's take a step back. I'm a company that's just going down the adventure of AI. What are my top priorities? What advice would you give me to as that first kind of 3 steps that I'd take?
Yeah. So, well, first thing is, I would say, you know, there's a lot of hype around generative AI. Gartner says it's at the top right now of the hype cycle. They have this sort of technology adoption curve. Every technology tends to follow it. Generative AI, and we know it's at the top of the hype cycle, right? You can't go to any conference, you can't open any sort of trade magazine without seeing generative AI, ChatGPT. It's everywhere. So step number 1 is talk the C-suite down. It's not going to overnight change your business. Set realistic expectations. Of course, we've already talked about this. You know, get your knowledge house in order. That's super important. Then it's really important that you do the projects like you do any project. Set up a steering committee, have cross-functional representation. If you're a bank, you know, make sure compliance and legal are there. This is dull stuff, right? But it's this type of fundamental project management is super important, right? You know, make sure you have the pilot well defined, the success factors, make sure that you're aligning where you're working with customer pain points, all that good stuff. And then, you know, be really strategic in how you tackle it. I love that Irish utility example, right? That I talked about earlier, where they were trying to, improve the customer experience, and they used the generative AI to figure out what were the top call types. They didn't know that. So that's being very strategic in how they're using the technology. And there's another element of strategy that's super important too, that I think a lot of companies ignore, which is you need to step back before you implement these transformational technologies and look at your customer segments, your customer needs, and your channel strategy. Let's go to banking for a second, right? When I was at the banks, when I talk to banks now, you don't want to treat every customer the same, right? If you've got high net worth individuals, maybe you don't want to really push them, the high net worth individuals, to the digital channel. Maybe you don't want to sort of give them all the best generative AI tools in the digital channel, because you're going to get more upsell, cross-sell, and retention with them if they get the white glove treatment by a human. So before you rush to implement these new sexy technologies, be really thoughtful about your customer segments, your channel strategy, and where do you want to put each customer, and what experience do you want to give them? The last thing I'll say on this question is, and this one is actually might be a little controversial because I'm seeing people go against the advice I'm about to give, and that is, especially now, you should buy and not make your solutions. We're seeing a lot of companies in the generative AI space cobble together, here's a little piece from we'll take Copilot from Microsoft, and we'll take SharePoint for our knowledge, and two or three other things, and we'll cobble together our own solution. Where there are companies like mine, eGain, where we've been at this for 25 years. We have a ton of best practices. We've figured out how to make these technologies synchronize and work well. And when they fail, we have backup systems, right? So if you buy a leading technology in the space, you're going to get faster results. You're going to stay out of the soup in the missteps you might make. And there's one other piece on this point, which is I think a lot of companies think that the secret sauce, the competitive advantage, is in the AI piece. I could not disagree more. I think the secret sauce and the competitive advantage is how you use the generative AI, how you implement it across your channel and your human channel. That, especially here in the early game, where it's the Wild West. It's getting it out there first and using it effectively. That's the competitive advantage. Maybe in 5 years, when everyone's got it out there, having a better model will be the competitive advantage. Now it's getting it out there effectively and changing the agent and the customer experience.
Okay.
Good answer.
I'm not sure if you agree with me or not. I'm not sure if you agree with me. Again, that's something that a lot of companies are going the make route.
I mean, we have our own journey to go on in terms of technology. I mean, we are going on that journey. We take a lot of customers on that journey with us, and we've often had the choice, buy or build. Sometimes the decision has been to build and it's worked out. Sometimes the decision has been to buy and it's worked out. It depends on what you're looking to build and the impact that you're looking to make in the space, and the time to market that you want. If you want to be quicker to market with it, you have to buy. If you've got 5 or 10 years to play around to really iterate to get it where it needs to be, then maybe build is what you're going for. But it is a great question. I think, Evan, maybe to go, I have to ask one more thing. So, virtual financial coach. Tell us about that. What is it? In 2 minutes or less, how did you go through that journey, and how's it changing lives in the finance space?
Sure, it's a topic I care a lot about, so I may have trouble sticking to your 2-minute time box. Let me.
We'll give you 3 minutes.
All right, let me give you a little bit of the backstory, because the backstory is really important. When I was at Wells Fargo, I worked in the call center. I would listen to calls. And so many of the calls, the root issue of the call was the customer was struggling financially, and our agents were unable to address that. They had to just sort of, okay, can I reverse your fee or not? Not the fact that the customer had no savings, and that's why they were overdrawing. And so at Wells, I set up a team of human financial health coaches. It was a phenomenal experience. It actually got featured in the annual report of Wells Fargo, which for a $90 billion company to have your pet project spotlighted in the annual report was a real career highlight. But ultimately, it got shut down because I had to constantly defend it to the bean counters, the finance guys, that like, are we making money on this? It's a very expensive way to service customers, 20-minute calls to deliver financial advice. And then the compliance team was like, oh, there's a risk these bankers say something they shouldn't, it's uncontrolled. We had some systems, but they weren't great. So it got shut down. But that team was the happiest team in the bank. Great engagement because they were really helping people and the customers were super happy. So I said to myself, this is sort of the future of banking, sort of advice and guidance, but there has to be a technology solution. So that was also part of the reason why I joined eGain. Was when I talked to the company, they said, oh, we can build that. So the journey was, let's kind of recreate that Wells Fargo team, but let's do it with a bot. Part of what made it successful was I found a partner. It's a financial counseling firm, nonprofit, that has been doing this for 60 years. And so we were able to bake in their expertise to the bot, the financial health coach. It's like talking to one of their counselors. It has empathy. We have little tests that are easy to answer to build confidence. It's conversational. So all these pieces make it a really unique experience. And another thing we did, kind of going back to this idea of being very strategic, is I won't get into all the data about how customers are struggling, but I'm sure you know that it's a global problem, right? People are struggling financially. But the one realization we had was that probably 80% of customer issues can be addressed with just a few issues. How do I save more? How do I pay down debt? How do I build credit? In other words, get a strong credit score so I can get cheaper credit. And so we built these journeys on those areas, those specific topics that cover about 80% of what people need. We made it engaging, and so we made it turnkey. So we have approaching 40 clients now. They all have pretty much the same coach, turnkey, right? Because the advice and guidance is great. By the way, I think I'm getting over my 3-minute time limit, but we're working on a version 2 of it. The next version is going to be much more around selling, because what we're hearing from our clients is they want to sort of monetize the solution. It's great that customers are happy. We're getting great customer satisfaction results, but let's kind of work on product recommendations. And so we're taking the same capability, and now we're doing needs-based selling. What product do you want? What are your financial goals? And then mirroring the bot to be able to recommend products in addition to this financial guidance.
Okay, and just this is at eGain, right? The virtual financial coach that you're have created.
Yes.
Okay, so you took the experience of a team that you created at Wells Fargo, you brought it into a virtual version, a bot version at eGain, providing the same support, soon to be monetizing it to clients.
Exactly. It's a bot. And we actually asked them, it's just to give you one data point on the effectiveness of it. People that go down the credit journey, again, this is across our nearly 40 clients. We asked them at the beginning of it, how confident are you about your ability to improve your credit score, which in the States is really important. And then we asked them on a scale of 1 to 5. And then we asked them again after they've gone through the coaching. And by the way, the coaching isn't just general education. It's a specific action plan. Natalie, you should do this first, this second, and this third. It's very personalized action plans. And then we asked them again at the end of the journey, how confident are you in your ability to improve your credit score? And we get a 35% improvement in confidence. So even though it's turnkey, even though it's a bot, we're getting these great results in people feeling increased confidence. We've learned a lot of important lessons along the way, right? It's not been 100% smooth sailing, but I think this is the great future of financial services, is all about delivering advice and guidance at scale. That's the way banks and credit unions can differentiate themselves in this competitive market.
Okay, epic. Thank you for that, Evan. I'm handing over to Natalie now, who will take you through some interesting questions.
So, Evan, as you know, we are going to do 5 rapid fire questions that you have not prepared for. You don't know what we're going to ask, and you just have to answer them to the best of your ability. Yeah.
Okay.
It's
usually got it.
Rapid fire is usually like just a word or like a couple words. So
Okay.
let's see. Okay, are you ready?
I'm ready. As ready as I'll ever be.
Cool. Evan, which is your favorite day of the week?
Saturday.
What did you say? Saturday.
Saturday. Yes. I only play on Saturday. Never work, never do anything work related. Play all day long.
No, that's good. I thought you were going to say something lame like Tuesday because you love
No,
work so
It's
much.
his favorite day.
no,
Let him have
no,
whatever
no,
day
no,
he
no.
wants.
Yeah. No, I love to play. Trust me.
Okay, that's good. That's good. Good to know. We're learning about you. Um, if your life could be a movie, which movie would it be?
Oh,
This one's actually a hard one.
that's a really hard one. I'm going to do something totally goofy. Apollo 13, and I'll tell you why. Was one of my favorite scenes in movies all time. I'll give you a long answer. I apologize. They're out in space. The engineers have to figure out a way to solve them. They say, here's the 6 things the astronauts have, and the engineers devise a tool. And I think that's just so cool that they great problem solving. So that's maybe a little bit of a lame, but I would love to consider myself a great problem solver.
No, that's cute. Um, cool. In one word, what benefit does eGain provide to customers? This is also a hard
2
one.
words. Yeah, trustworthy answers. 2 words. Trustworthy answers.
Okay. That's good. We'll take it. And what's one language you wish you could speak?
French, the language of love.
Oh, that's sweet. And what is your go-to breakfast?
My go-to breakfast is oatmeal and fruit.
Nice, healthy.
Very
I
healthy.
feel like we learned a lot about you in about 2 minutes.
Sure. Whatever perception people had of Evan
Yeah.
after all of this intelligent AI talk and banking talk, they hear oatmeal and fruit and they're like, man,
And Saturdays.
and Saturdays, man, this guy likes to play.
Oh, that's brilliant.
Evan, thank you so much. It's been an absolute treat having you on. Where can our audience find you if they want to hear more about what you guys have to offer?
Yeah. Well, first of all, I enjoyed the conversation. These were very insightful questions. So they can find me. I'll give you my email, Siegel, ESIEGEL at eGain.com, EGAIN. And by the way, even if people want to just talk about these topics, I love to engage. That's how I learn. I'm also on LinkedIn. So Evan Siegel at eGain, probably the 2 best ways to find me.
Fantastic. Well, if I can just make like a quick summary about this conversation, I think it's clear the many benefits a good knowledge base has on overall customer experience, agent experience, productivity, efficiency, empowerment, probably attrition levels at BPOs as well. I think there's numerous experiences. I think it's clear that you have to get your fundamentals of AI right first before diving in. I think it's clear that you must be very careful and consider when you should build and when you should buy, and when in doubt, speak to an expert. And I think it's just clear that there's a lot of innovation happening in the financial institution space as well. And if you are listening to this and you're head of customer experience, head of technology at a bank, and you worried about the red tape, you're worried about the clunkiness of legacy technology, don't be scared. There are providers out there who will help you with the journey, make it as seamless as possible, despite the million data points that you may be having on an everyday basis within your organization.
That's an excellent summary, Bryce. I got to tell you, you don't need generative AI if you've got Bryce around. He will summarize it.
Well, Evan, it's been an absolute pleasure. I hope this is the first of many episodes that we have with you on. And next episode, we're going to level up even more. So if people struggle to understand this one, well, we come chat with us. We'll upskill you and get you ready for that next episode.
That sounds great. I would
Evan,
love that.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you for tuning in. We hope you had as much fun as we did and gained valuable experience insights.
Let us know what you think. Connect with us on social media and don't forget to like and subscribe.
Stay inspired, stay customer centric, and know that the world of customer experience and collections is within your reach, the global experience.